Good morning, everyone. This is your every few month reminder to clean up your feed and be prepared and proactive as we have Mercury retrograde happening next week on a new moon in Sagittarius. So I think it's really important right now, especially, to clean up our feeds. We need to use our social media as virtual vision boards, right? And I'm sure you've heard other people say that, but it really is important that the images that you're seeing are adding richness and joy to your life. And so that may mean you have to unfollow or snooze or mute some people depending on what social media platform we're talking about. It's also really important right now. There's a lot of division in the spiritual community, and the most prevalent way I see this is these sort of videos or stitches where it's like a lot of practitioners have these like comebacks, or these rebuttals to how other people are practicing or what they do or what the content they're putting out. I think it's really important that if you are watching someone and that is the only content that they create is a response to everyone else's content, and they have no originality, or they have no they're not using their platform to share their personality with you and their personal practices with you, and they're not documenting that and sharing that with you and giving you a resource to educate yourself and enrich your life with, but instead it's this sort of constant tit for tat. I want you to be aware of what an energy drain that is, and that you're essentially just watching people argue and gossip all day. And those are very low vibrational activities. It's somebody's feed should be full of, encouragement, guidance, sharing their practice with you. They should have a theme to sort of how their work looks and what their content sounds like. And if that theme is sort of this constant stream of being argumentative or constantly correcting someone else's spiritual path, that's not telling me anything about that content creator or about that artist or about that business owner or about that professional or about that entrepreneur. That doesn't tell me anything about that person. All that tells me is that they like to criticize and critique everyone else. And that's not really necessary in the spiritual world. We're all doing our own things. We don't need correction on it. If you, there are times people send me videos and they'll be like, oh, what do you think about what this person said? But I don't go and make a public rebuttal about it. I will have a private conversation with the person who sent it to me, and I can give them my opinion there. Not everything needs to be said publicly, and we don't need to denigrate or demean other people's practices. Now, I'm pretty old school. I've been in this game for almost 30 years. And I think 30 years ago, the reason it was different is because we had no access to, there weren't social media platforms talking about paganism and spirituality and witchcraft and root work and all these different aspects of how you can practice earth magico traditions. So we had very little access to books. That was typically at your local library where you would request for them to bring a book in. Barnes and Nobles did not carry 200 tarot decks like it does now. It didn't carry any tarot decks. And you had a very, very, very tiny section, of maybe, I don't know, 30 books to look at. Certainly none of them were encroaching on any type of, you had folk magic representation, but it would be from like Great Britain. It wouldn't be earth magical traditions from the Caribbean or, from Africa, or learning even about folk magic traditions here in the United States. So, 30 years ago, we just didn't argue about this stuff because we were so happy to find somebody that was even remotely similarly like-minded, that you could just sort of express your ideas around about this stuff. And people were just genuinely so excited to find anybody. And it would be nice to go back to those days in some ways. I love now that we have 200 different tarot decks to look at when we go to a Barnes and Nobles, and we have about probably 1,000 metaphysical and spirituality books to look at. There are definitely some wonderful things about the growth that this and the momentum behind this, and it being on social media. But again, to reiterate my point is that you want to see somebody's body of work when you're following them as a spiritual practitioner, and not just their criticisms on other people. If they're not presenting you with a body of work that represents themselves as a professional or just as a spiritual practitioner, maybe they're not a professional, maybe they don't sell their services or sell their items, and they're just sort of allowing you a glimpse to follow along in their life, that's a really beautiful thing to cherish. But what I do not cherish is the petty arguments and rebuttals and these sort of constant clapbacks at other practitioners. If you don't like what somebody is doing, there's really no need to express it verbally. You can just move on. And I think that energy is much better spent developing your own practice. If you're seeing something that really sort of rubbed you the wrong way in somebody's practice, the best thing for you to do is to go make an offering and light some incense and practice the way you practice, and honor your guides and your deities the way you honor your guides and your deities. Or go work on a spell the way you work on a spell. There's no need to publicize every negative critique that you feel you should make on someone. And that comes along with maturity and having grace, and also just understanding that we're not right about everything. And in a lot of cases in spiritual paths, there is no way to be right about everything. You don't know people's backgrounds. You don't know how they grew up practicing. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing, if that was formulated by the way they were raised or environmental factors. The point is, it's really none of your business why somebody is practicing the way they're practicing. And it does not require a verbal rebuttal or critique or criticism. So you can do that in your mind if you'd like, but I would just like to see more of people's bodies of works on here, and less of the tit for tat, less of the you're wrong, I'm right. I don't really care. If I see somebody and I think that they're doing something that I wouldn't do, that's the end of my thought. And then I go about my day and I go back to making money with my very successful business, and helping my clients, and enjoying my life and enjoying my practice. So it's just something to think about. And I'm putting it out there before Mercury retrograde so you can clean up your feed and you can really think about who you are allowing into your life and what you are viewing through these social media platforms. So I hope you take a moment today and think about that. And let's get ready for Mercury retrograde together. Be blessed. And remember, not everything has to be said.